welcome back to the RV Shenanigans Podcast. I'm Ryan.
I'm Lauren, and together we're Millers in Motion. We sold our ranch in Texas and are now enjoying many new adventures in our Alliance Fowler.
And we are coming to you live from the 2024 Florida RV Super Show still. This is about our 5th show now.
5 or 6, somewhere in there, yeah.
We're getting better at it as we go, which is good news for all the next guests.
Are we, though? Are we?
Shush. A big thank you to Alliance RV for hosting us and letting us come crash their party and pretty much just make a bunch of noise and new friends for letting us record. But we have a fun guest because he has made, well, you didn't make it, sorry, but his company, he takes all the credit. His company made our favorite upgrade we've ever had on any RV ever, and it's currently on our 2024 Valor 44 V14, and I could not imagine towing it without it. This is Austin from MORryde. How's it going?
I'm doing great. I'm here in Florida. Back home in Elkhart, it's about negative 20, so...
Hard pass.
Yeah,
hard pass.
50 degrees here still feels a lot better than that.
So do you live up in Elkhart?
I do.
I'm so sorry about the weather.
Yeah, it's not great. Family back home keeps texting me and saying, you know, I know you're in 50 degrees and it's been raining the last few days, but it's better than back here. So
That's true.
It's all good. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah,
Thanks
no more talk about the rain when it's warm. You lose that right, don't you?
I lose, yes, absolutely.
Perfect. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's good to be here.
I know that it's kind of hard during the show to pull especially vendors away from their booth, so we're super appreciative that you took a little bit of time to come chat with us. And believe it or not, we have a lot. You have the most listener Q&As of any other guests we have.
I'm humbled. So that's great.
We haven't asked the questions yet.
That's true. Until we read them, I guess I'm not humbled until then.
Exactly. So if you don't mind, so we can learn a little bit about Austin, peel back the onion layer, if you may. What got you into the RV industry?
So growing up around the Elkhart area, you hear all about RVs. I mean, the RV capital of the world is based in Elkhart,
Sure.
Elkhart, Indiana. So I went to college at a local college near Elkhart. Family members, my dad worked in the industry, and so right out of college, actually a couple months after, I started at MORryde, and I've been there ever since.
Oh, wow.
So been in the industry 10 years now. It's been a lot of learning, a lot of growing, but it's been a lot of fun. MORryde's been a great place to work. Some really good people, really good owners, and it starts at the top down. So the owners are second-generation owners, and eventually it might be passed down to third generation, but
Right.
I've been in the industry, like I said, 10 years, and it's just been a whirlwind. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome.
I've also come to a lot of the Tampa RV shows, so I know what you guys are talking about. We've had some cold, we've had some warm, and everything in between,
about
but
to say.
it's good to be here.
You come down just to get away from that weather, don't you?
I try every year. They say, do you want to go to Minnesota or do you want to go to Florida? I say, okay, I'll go to Florida this year.
Stop asking me the question. Just send me to Florida.
Yes.
That's not perfect. So if you don't mind, I think a lot of people know MORryde for some suspension stuff and a few random components that come on their RVs when they get them from factory or when they first buy it. But if you don't mind, can you talk a little bit about how MORryde kind of got its start and how it became what it is today?
Yeah, absolutely. So MORryde started back in 1966. So
Oh, wow.
we've been around nearly 60 years. They actually started as a rubber component. They bought the rights or the patent to a rubber component, and that rubber component was used in one specific application. The application was used as a shear spring capacity, where it's basically put on the back end of what were called lowboy trailers. And these lowboy trailers were used to haul other RVs and other vehicles down the road. So this patent that they bought back in 1966 has been integrated into a bunch of our other suspension upgrades, such as the IS and many other OEM and motorhome suspensions as well. So they bought it back in 1966. About 15, 20 years later, they invested in some metal fabrication equipment, such as laser cutters and press brakes and stuff like that.
CNC machines, that kind of stuff, yeah.
To help out one customer in particular. And so that was, in the 80s and 90s. Then we grew from there. We bought our second, our third, our fourth laser, started expanding. And our owners were very particular about staying in the Elkhart area.
Sure.
So now today, we're over 1 million square feet of manufacturing space. We don't share public numbers because we're still privately held, but we are one of the largest metal fabricators in the U.S.
And I will say, if you have never gotten a chance to be up there and tour it, it is impressive and staggering all at the same time somehow.
And it's changed a lot, even in the last 10 years that I've been at MORryde. I mean, the campus that I'm at, our Sterling location, which is right downtown Elkhart, has changed dramatically in the last few years even.
Right.
So, and then since then, we've opened a state-of-the-art powder coat facility. We work with more customers, both in the RV space and outside. So not only are we big in the RV space, which is what a lot of people know us for, but we work in, military accounts and agricultural and stuff like that.
Right. I was actually going to say, because you said customers before, but that's a wide gamut of a term for you guys. Most people just assume it's the components you see on the RV, and that's really it. And at the end of the day, there's so much more that goes into what MORryde actually does.
Yeah, and we have a great team. I mean, I'm more particularly on the aftermarket side, so
Sure.
the parts that customers will see day to day that they'll interact with, such as suspension and steps, things that we're known for. That's going to be a big part of what I work with day to day. But we also have a full team of engineers and account managers that will go out and they'll pursue a new business outside of the RV world or even within.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So getting into some of those products, and obviously we're probably going to stay away from the military grade stuff.
Yeah.
We're gonna live in the RV world because we're an RV show.
That makes sense.
So the cannons. No, I'm just kidding.
The rocket launchers, we'll talk about those later.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, so they're with rubber. So what are some of the most popular products that come out of MORryde?
So
Consumer level. Let's say consumer level initially, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'll say components later.
So I would say one of the main things that MORryde's known for on the consumer side is going to be steps. We came out with them in 2016. A little bit before that, there was also R&D that went into it. But in 2016, we launched the steps, the step above steps. They go into the doorway. They go all the way to the ground. So it's kind of a game changer for dealers in particular because lot management was a big thing where they would crush these RVs right next to each other. You could barely squeeze into them. Well, our steps came down to the ground and it forced them to spread them out. They didn't like it at first, but customers that used RVs loved them, and so they started pushing more and more.
Especially the ones that are shaped more like Ryan. Not just because they're super stable and the other ones are not so much, and you feel like you're going to, end up on the ground faster than you want to.
That not all of that style of step are created equal.
No.
We have firsthand experience with that, and yours are step above and much preferred.
Oh, that's
sorry.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's like they thought about it and named it that for some reason.
We like to think so. I'm in sales, so I pitch it all day long, but it's great to hear from other people that have actually used
now
the
I'm giving
product.
you lines.
That's right, yeah.
There you go.
I can tell you
I'll pay you later for that
when we
one.
got our new RV. Oh, there's money?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was unaware of this.
I'm not supposed to say that on air.
Oh, shoot. We just renegotiate ourselves back out of it. No, we were super excited to be getting steps, and we didn't realize it was another manufacturer's at the time. And I remember pulling our brand new coach in and them going, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yep." And they ripped every little piece of it off and put the step above in, and I could not be happier about that.
Yeah.
So,
And you guys have the strut assist, right? The ones
do.
the hydraulic leveling. Yep. Very good.
Yep. No, absolutely. So, so now I say that in terms of, that's a lot of aftermarket stuff that you can do, which the steps are part of that. Is that also the most popular product that you serve out to like the OEMs and the manufacturers?
I would say probably the most popular. Yeah.
Okay.
To date, I don't know the exact number. We're over 1 million that we've sold. So there's between OEM and aftermarket. So, and we still work with a large majority of the manufacturers in some capacity. Not every floor plan, every model has our steps. There's some other guys out there, different models, different brands. But
There are? I'm just kidding.
Not in our world. They don't exist.
They don't exist, yeah. We just turn a blind eye. But no, that's probably still our most popular customer and OEM-facing product.
Gotcha.
I was going to tell you, we were coming out of one of the Valors. I wasn't with you earlier, and we have the safety rail,
Oh, yeah?
and these don't yet.
Oh.
I nearly made a fool of myself.
You went to reach for it and it wasn't there? Yeah.
Yeah, you forget. Like, that's one of the other things that they said, do you want safety rails? And at the time, they were newer. I mean, they're much more common now. But then you only saw a handful of them, like, sure? And I got on, I'm like, okay, where has this been my whole life? Because it's just one of those things, like, why don't rails extend to the bottom of the stairs, or at least closer to the bottom of the stairs?
Yeah. I mean, if you go to any residential place or business, you have a handrail with every step. It's to code, you expect it. Yeah. And so at my house, for instance, our house is 100 years old. So it's a really steep set of stairs, and we have that handrail. I would die if I didn't have it. So it's nice that we had a product finally that we came out with.
I was going to say, especially in the winter in Elkhart.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
So are there any other like products that are just like, I have one in particular, and that's why I'm bringing this up, that you kind of look at and you're like, why are we making this? And then all of a sudden it just takes off and you're like, oh, okay, I understand now.
So we have a wide variety of products. So like I said, we have the steps, we have step accessories like the safety rail and the latch extender, some motion activated lights.
Which, by the way, are the stairs are one of our favorite things. The lights are the second favorite because I can't tell you how many times I forget to turn on an awning light and almost fall down the stairs, and then that light kicks on. I'm like, oh, thank God.
So what we try to do is we come up with products that always make the RV experience easier and allow people to enjoy their time longer. Because the longer they enjoy their RVs, the more products we can sell, the more they can enjoy the industry, and it just builds everything up.
It's so true, and I think your other slogan should be stuff you didn't know you needed. Because once you have it, you can't imagine before.
I'll pitch it to the team. We'll see what happens.
You didn't realize this is going to change your world.
MORryde. You didn't know you needed this. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's got a little catchy tune. Like Hayden came out right before we left the factory, and he's like, "Oh, hey, I forgot to give you this," and he handed it to me out of a package, so I didn't know what it was. I'm like, "What it was is the cord reel."
Oh yeah,
and I'm like, "What is this thing?" And he's like, "It's a cord reel." I'm like,
"Cord keeper."
Or cord keeper. Sorry. I'm like, "What? How? Okay." And he had to actually show me. I'm like, "Oh, no joke. I didn't realize how much I wanted that thing."
Yeah.
And it's not even that expensive of a product, to be completely honest with you. And it literally just lives underneath our rubber pin box now.
He is so excited about this little thing. It works its way into videos more often than any of your other products.
Well, and it's one of those things, like you mentioned, we have our what's called our easy reel spooler, our cord reel, and that holds a 50 amp cord or a 30 amp cord. Great product. We've sold it for a number of years, 10, 15 years. And so I don't even know where the idea came from, but
someone rolling up a 50 amp cord, and when it's like 5 degrees outside and it doesn't bend, that's where it came from.
Well, that's exactly right. And then outside of that, the cord keeper, the inception was probably just like, hey, why don't we do this with the 7-way cord that gets stuck on the bottom side of the pin box? So it's been a fun product. Anytime we come out with something new on the sales side too, it's just a fun new thing to pitch. And so it's been going over. When it goes over well, it makes it more fun to pitch.
That's true.
So it's been a really good product. It's very easy to use, and so that's been a cool product for us.
So all those little products are well and great. They definitely make RV life easier, more fun, all of those different things.
Safer.
But I will tell you, the one thing that I am most happy that you guys do is suspension systems. Because I've towed a lot of things, and a lot of things don't tow great.
That is accurate.
So we're going to get to the independent suspension, but just for some frame of reference, I do want to talk a little bit about the CRE 3000 and the All-Trek 4000, just because those in themselves you wouldn't think would be this massive upgrade, but they really are. And a lot of OEMs now are starting to realize that and put, at least on mid-level and higher trailers, that CRE 3000 as a standard option. But why are they wanting to do that so much more versus just a standard suspension system that comes with the frame?
Yeah, so for reference, the standard suspension is going to be basically, we call it a wishbone. It's a steel rocket that rocks from side to side. That gives you about 2 inches of wheel travel, meaning as you go over rough roads, your wheels can move up and down about 2 inches, and that's working in conjunction with the leaf springs. So that's standard across the industry, especially lower-end models.
And I don't know about you, but I've seen a lot of potholes bigger than 2 inches.
There are, especially in Indiana and Michigan and most of the Midwest, actually. It's where you get the ice and then it breaks. And then
go on down to Louisiana and through Shreveport and come back and have a conversation.
I have heard that. I haven't driven it, but I've heard that's pretty bad.
Be thankful. Avoid it.
Yes.
Just in general.
And so potholes, that's a great example. Railroad tracks, expansion joints in the highway, all these things that, as you're going over them, it's going to jar and basically create an earthquake in the back of your RV. So MORryde got, again, back in 1966, we started the company, not me personally, but the owner started the company with that shear spring using rubber, and it's going to allow the wheels to move up and down. It's basically like a shock absorber for your RV. And so we moved from, our idea was basically take that wishbone, add rubber in it, just like what we came out with back in 1966, and we incorporated that into what's called our CRE 3000. A lot of people call it the CRE.
I was about to say, So which one is it?
You can call it the CRE if you want to. We'll know exactly what you're talking about. The CRE stands for compression rubber equalizer. It's a compressed rubber equalizer.
Look at us learning stuff.
That's what I'm here for. And so the CRE 3000 is going to sit between the wheels. It allows for 3 inches of wheel travel instead of 2. It allows you to go over those rough roads a lot easier. And you're exactly right. We've been working with more and more manufacturers over the years. Alliance uses them on some models.
Staring at one right here, I think.
That's right. Yep. Certain floor plans use them, certain models. And so across the industry, that's kind of the next step up over a steel equalizer. It's going to reduce that chattering of the frame. It's going to protect the inside of the components on the inside, such as cabinets and whatever valuables you have in there. And the biggest benefit, in my opinion, is the sidewalls. I mean, you basically have a house on wheels. And so our philosophy is, every RV going down the road is a house on wheels. The better you can do at protecting your RV from the floor up, from the ground up, the better it's going to last in the long run.
And my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that this is a relatively cost-effective upgrade, and it's easy and quick to get put onto your coach. So this isn't a large task.
Yeah. I mean, any do-it-yourselfer that has some bottlenose jacks and some basic tools can do it themselves. You can take it to a dealer to get it installed, but you're basically just taking your wheels off, unbolting the old one, putting the new one in.
Right.
It's, call it $300 retail, would do both sides of the coach on a tandem axle trailer. So for $300,
that inexpensive.
Yeah, so not much, and it makes a world of difference. Again, it's basically like, imagine your knees. If you were to jump off a cliff and land with your knees locked, that's what a steel equalizer is. With us, it's, you're bending your knees, you're kind of gliding over those rough roads.
Well, and I think it's important to know, too, that when you couple that with your wet bolt system as well, that travel is just going to go a little bit smoother and it's not going to gunk up. Now, that does require a little bit of maintenance, but that at the end of the day, things that require maintenance also help. Yep. And there's a reason why they require maintenance, so that they continue to rub and go versus just using a standard carriage style bolt and not ruin the bolt.
Yeah. I mean, maintenance is kind of like going to the doctor. It's not fun. It's not the most, it's not the thing you look forward to the most, but it's kind of a necessary part of life, and it helps you in the long run.
So then the All-Trek, what does All-Trek stand for? I'm just kidding.
All-Trek. Every Trek. All of them.
So the All-Trek 4000 is essentially the same thing, just with more travel?
Yes. Same concept, same design, more rubber, larger travel slot. So what we focus on is that travel slot. It's a vertical travel slot that allows your wheels to move straight up and down instead of just rocking from side to side. So the All-Trek, I talk about its price and performance. So a little bit more expensive, a little bit better performing. So instead of 3 inches of wheel travel, you get 4 with the All-Trek. You can pair it with wet bolt kits if you'd like. And it goes on basically every model that fits the CRE 3000. So as long as they have 8,000-pound axles or less, this will fit.
So, and before we dive too far into what I really want to talk about, I do think it's important. Yeah, the hand rub is what we're doing.
It's the giveaway.
This is an audio podcast too, so not everybody knows what we're doing. We've had to explain some stuff before. In addition to those two systems, you guys now also have something called X-bracing.
Yes.
So where does that come into play in the suspension side of things?
So it's called the X Factor crossmember. And
I got close on the name.
We also have what's the X-brace, which are the stabilizers that we came out with a couple of years ago. But the X Factor crossmembers are basically, there's really 3 things that can go wrong in an RV suspension. Broken leaf springs, which a lot of people have experienced. Broken shackles, which probably more people have experienced, which is what ties your equalizer to your leaf spring.
Right.
That's the connection point that moves up and down. And then after that is frame hangers, and that's that little welded 2-inch wide U-bolt that's welded to the bottom side of your I-beam. And those crack a lot of times. I mean, if you're backing into a tight spot and you look at your wheels, they're kind of bending out, they're bending in, they're creaking and popping. All that stress goes right into that frame hanger. And so we have a product that basically braces both of those cross members together laterally across the bottom side of the frame, and it reduces the stress at each frame hanger by over 90%. So it's it's just like all cross bracing in architecture. It's pulling against itself. It's much more sturdy and much stronger, and allows your RV again to last a lot longer.
How does that attach?
It's just a direct bolt-on. It's just a thick metal plate that bolts on the backside of both frame hangers, and then it's fully adjustable as far as the width goes. So there's slotted holes and circular holes and 2 different C channels, and they just bolt right together.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really cool. And just the fact that it adds essentially longevity too to the end of the deal. It's just less things that you have to fix, hopefully, down the road as you drive and travel.
That's the goal.
All right. IS. Now, a lot of people hear that, and I think they get scared of a dollar sign and run the other direction, to be completely honest, because we did initially.
Or maybe they're even just not familiar with it.
Sure. And so what IS does stand for is independent suspension. So not, as I've learned now, it's not like your truck, because that was the first thing I asked.
Yep.
But so what exactly is independent suspension, even though it's very self-explanatory?
Yeah, so IS, independent suspension, ISS, whatever you want to call it, it goes by a lot of different things, but the performance is going to be much higher than anything that's going to be bolt-on. So with independent suspension, we basically take off your leaf springs, we take off your shackles, we take off your frame hangers. And so the three things I just mentioned, which we have solutions for, are now gone. So we're basically taking a full suspension system where each wheel moves independently of one another, where with a traditional axle, there's a steel tube that stretches from one side to the other. So if you hit something on the left side of the road, the right side of the RV also feels it because it's interconnected. With the independent suspension, each wheel, just like an automobile, each wheel moves independently of one another. It allows you to glide over those rough roads much smoother, much easier, protects the RV much longer. And so you get a total of 5.5 inches of wheel travel. So not 2, not 3 with our CRE, not 4 with the All-Track, but 5.5 inches and independent wheel action.
Which I can attest for this is it literally feels like your coach is gliding across things. I still remember, so we took our coach from Alliance over to you guys. You guys did your thing. We took it back to Alliance to have them wrap some stuff up. And then I started making my way back to Texas so we could actually move into it, because we were just suitcasing it at that point. And I came up on some road junctions in our old coach that it did have the CRE 3000. It was really heavy in the back end. But you'd come up on some bridge junctions, and we all know what those are like if you tow a fifth wheel, especially a big fifth wheel.
He'd prepare for the rodeo.
Yeah, there's some chucking involved. We'll just say that. Well, I would tense up when that happens, right? And so the IS is installed, the coach is done, Alliance is done with it, and we're heading back to Texas. And when we get down, I'm starting to come up on some of those bridge junctions, especially through like the south side of Chicago and all of that. And some of those were bad.
They're not good.
And I remember the truck would hit it, and I'm like, okay, here it comes. And then nothing. Literally nothing. And I called her the second day, and she's like, because I remember, and I had to break a habit almost when I was towing, because I would tense up so much when those got there, because I'd have to prepare to grab the trailer brake or something to help smooth it out.
You're white knuckling, yeah.
Pretty much. When you get up on those and you're just wondering, like, do I need to accelerate to make it better, or do I need to brake to make it better? Because they're all a little bit different when you get into them. And I remember calling her, and I'm on the phone, and I go, oh, no, and nothing. She's like, what? And I go, nothing, I guess. Never mind. And so it took a few days to break the habit, but it literally feels like it's gliding. And I will say my truck suspension is now officially the worst suspension I have.
Wow.
Because you don't feel the coach behind you, essentially, when it hits things.
And you guys have some railroad tracks very shortly outside of your facility where we had it installed. And that was one of the first things that we did, was went over the railroad tracks. And we were both so amused that, the truck makes its... But the coach just glided right over.
Right.
Yep.
So are there any particular coaches or anything that benefit from IS, or is there really some coach out there that maybe doesn't benefit from IS?
Yeah, so anything under, there's not a specific weight rating, but we'd say anything under 10 or 11,000 pounds GVW probably doesn't make sense to utilize and articulate the full motion of the rubber shear spring on there.
Okay.
The high-end fifth wheels, especially full-timers, the people that can notice an immediate difference the most. And so, there's really no one in particular. Obviously, it doesn't work on motorhomes. It's going to be specific to heavier travel trailers or fifth wheels, toy haulers. But a tandem axle or a triple axle, it works with any system.
So let's say somebody takes the dive and says, you know what, I just don't want to deal with this anymore. I want the best that I can have, which I do believe the IS does increase your longevity of your coach, because you're just getting that. There's a lot less vibration that's going to transfer up into the frame, which at the end of the day, it just sounds like a good thing to me.
Yeah.
What does the maintenance start to look like at that point? As far as, so they've bought it, they're installed. It's because obviously on regular axles you have to grease those every so many miles, but on the IS it's a little different.
So with the IS, there's kind of a differentiation, because you can do just the independent suspension. You can keep your current drum brakes if you want to. So if you're maintaining the independent suspension, you have you have a little grease zerk on what is called our torque bracket. And that's basically, there's an arm that runs all the way through this torque bracket, and that's the part that's going to be moving up and down. As you go over rough roads, instead of your leaf springs and equalizer equalizing the weight from side to side, we have this arm that runs all the way through our torque bracket, and there's just a little zerk fitting, and you're going to grease that once a year or a couple times a year. Just enough to lubricate the inside, keep things running smoothly. Other than that, there's really not much maintenance to it.
Which is awesome.
It is awesome, and it's great. I mean, the rubber blocks themselves, they're not going to last 100 years. On average, I'd say about 10 years, they're going to last 10 years or more. So you can change out those rubber blocks easily. We have an installation guide and owner's manual to go through all that.
Right.
But there's really no maintenance to the independent suspension. Now, if you add disc brakes, that's a different ball game because you oftentimes will change out. You'll do grease packs and all that stuff as well.
So you touched based a little bit on this already, but you said if you have your drum brakes still, maintenance and all that. So do disc brakes come standard with IS? Can you use drum brakes with IS, or is this kind of, talk us through the braking systems?
Yeah, so you have the option, which is one of the other benefits of the IS. You can either stick with your traditional drum brakes, which is what comes on most RVs, which are a good way to obviously stop all the weight that's sitting behind your truck going down the road.
Sure.
You can also upgrade. We use D-Max brakes at our factory. So you can upgrade to D-Max disc brakes. There's different tests that we've done out there. There's different tests that they've done at the factory. We've seen anywhere from 40 to 60% quicker stopping distances compared to drum brakes. So especially in what we would call the emergency stop situation. So if someone pulls out in front of you, if there's a deer or something along those lines, the 40 to 60% quicker stopping distances is where that's really going to make the biggest difference.
That is huge.
Right.
It's a big deal. Yeah. It doesn't seem like a big deal until it is, until that one time. We've heard stories from customers that have had the independent suspension and disc brakes installed. They left the factory, and there's one customer I'll never forget. This was when I was working in a different department at MORryde, but he said he left the factory, and not less than 20 minutes later, there was a truck that pulled out right in front of him. He said he 100% would have T-boned that truck, totaled it, maybe hurt someone severely. Sure. He said that he missed it by 100 feet.
Wow.
So it's cool stories like that again, doesn't seem like a big deal until the one time you need it. It's worth every penny. So, right. And there's also some incentive, too, if you come to us to get it installed aftermarket, to retrofit your current RV. There's some cost savings there, or we're working with some manufacturers to have it optioned from the factory as well.
That was one thing we made sure to put on our Valor, too, just to make sure.
I was going to say, can I exit a test? Because we actually have the D-Max system on ours as well, because we got it from you guys. So, the first thing that I noticed is I was going under 20 miles an hour somewhere in like a parking lot. I'm like, I'm just curious. And I went to go pinch, and I could actually stop the entire rig, truck, everything, and I never actually touched the brakes in my truck. I mean, the trailer brake I did, which was crazy. I know I'm not supposed to do that, and I'm not going to do that again. But
it's a good test, though.
It's great for YouTube. Don't recommend. Perfect. So we have a couple of listener questions, and by a couple, I mean you are officially the most asked question person from our live shows here at the Super Show.
That's very cool.
You say that. I have still not asked the questions. You said that earlier, too.
That's true. That's true. I'm hoping that's very cool.
I love that he's just game for it, though. He's
whatever.
Here for it.
I'm along for the ride, so whatever. Yeah, whatever.
Right. So I'm going to ask this one first because Lauren collected, and I'm not exactly sure who it's from, but is MORryde considering any kind of airbag suspension systems?
So we actually have officially two different suspension systems that have already been developed for OEMs. So there's what would be called our Air 1 suspension. Okay. It's not an independent suspension with air, but it is each side gets their own airbags. It gives you several inches of wheel travel, similar to the rubber shear spring setup with our independent suspension.
Okay.
The plans would be down the road. Maybe that's something we could develop into being something that's retrofittable, just like the independent suspension. So things that we are looking into, things that we're considering, we're not there yet, but we do already have that Air 1 suspension available for OEMs. On top of that, we have another suspension system that's not officially named or readily available to our aftermarket friends, our customers, but we sell that to a customer of ours called Pause by Palomino. So Forest River brand. It gives something like 12 to 14 inches of wheel travel.
Wow.
Independent. You can also use it to raise and lower the unit. So if you need to drop the air out of it, you can do that to load in product, or if you want to raise it up for extra ground clearance. That's more of a high-end overlanding suspension system, but it's something that as that space kind of grows and develops, we're always looking for new opportunities.
Yeah.
So I would say stay tuned. Things are coming. We're working on it. We're looking into it.
I was going to say, just our conversations with everybody that was up there. I mean, the R&D is a never-ending circle at MORryde, is what I've understood.
Yep.
So, and there's some pretty cool things that you guys have been working on along with that as one. So, okay, so the next question is coming from Eric in Colorado. Does MORryde independent suspension with hydraulic? Wait, hang on. I got this right now. Does the MORryde independent suspension with hydraulic brakes have an ABS system?
It does not have an ABS system, and I would have D-Max come on here and talk about the logistics and specifics about how all that works.
Yeah.
But D-Max is what we would call electric over hydraulic.
Right.
So it still uses an electric signal to convert hydraulic pressure to actuate the brakes.
Right.
So again, that's one of those things I'd say stay tuned. We're looking into it, but as of right now, the disc brakes are just a standard electric over hydraulic disc brake setup.
Right, and I think it's important to note, too, that MORryde obviously makes the suspension system in there, but then just like anything else, that braking system, which is what ABS is going to be a part of, is a vendor for you guys.
Correct.
And so, yeah.
And that's those are parts that we source. We have a good relationship with them. They've worked well for us for a long time.
There
I'll
you
leave
go.
it at that.
Okay. So this next question comes from Caleb. He says in Utah, but he's also been standing right over there a couple of times, so he's around here somewhere. I'm not sure if he's actively here at the moment, but so he asked, why are trailer axles limited to 8K? A 2-axle toy hauler would be easier to maneuver and maintain if it had two 10K axles. Dual wheels acceptable for that versus standard 3 7K axles. I'm not sure that that's a MORryde or an Alliance question, to be honest with you.
I would say a little bit of both. I can kind of give you my perspective.
Sure.
It's a lot of these questions, this one in particular would be a collaboration between our engineering team, their engineering team, and I would get Alliance to answer that specifically. But as from our perspective, there are larger weight ratings for axles. MORryde in particular has different weight ratings for our independent suspension, 6, 7, 8, 8.5, and 9. You don't want to overbuild an RV.
Sure.
Even if you overbuild, it's not giving you the benefit of what you're paying for. So I think Alliance would have a similar stance that we would, that putting a thicker material underneath your RV doesn't really give you much benefit. If you're looking for larger weight capacity, that would be where, maybe getting with Alliance and the different axle setups would make more sense to them.
Well, and at that point, too, now you're talking about what can the frame actually handle. And so you open up a lot of engineering questions when that dives in, and I think that's a pretty extensive question.
It is, yeah. And there's a lot of different nuances that go into it and specifics. But, everything from the frame manufacturer to the axle spread, there's a lot that goes into that.
Awesome. Sorry, it started raining here, and so it got really, really loud over here. But honestly, in the recording, they're not going to hear much of that, so that's okay.
Very good.
Very cool. Well, if anybody wants to learn more about all of the independent suspension stuff and really all the products at MORryde, where's the best way that they can do that?
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways that you can go about that. You can reach out to us at sales@morryde.com if you have any questions. That'll go to a generic inbox and then gets forwarded to the appropriate party. A lot of those will go to me and my team. You can reach out. You can go to our website at www.morryde.com, or you can call our phone number. We have a state-of-the-art, high-end
Phone tree?
phone system. So that will also get forwarded over to our parts department. So if you have specific questions about parts and how they work and costs and stuff like that, I'd also say our Shopify, if you put in their code, do you guys have your code on hand?
We do. It's I think it's just the Millers. We'll link it in the show notes if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, or the description on the YouTube video.
Yep. And so we sell some products direct through our website where our affiliates get a small percentage and you actually get a discount and free shipping. So a few different ways to get in touch to find some information. If you're interested in buying, you can go through those routes. And
like I just said with the Spotify, we will also put that information down below if you didn't happen to catch it in the audio version of this, and so that you can go back and screenshot what you need or copy and paste.
Very good.
Austin, man, I cannot thank you enough for taking some time out of your day and coming over and chatting with us for a little bit.
It's been a delight, and this tent here has been a godsend. So we're getting out of the rain. So I appreciate you guys having me, though. It's been really fun.
Absolutely. And a big thank you to Alliance RV again for allowing us to set up shop here and chat about all things RVs. And hopefully you have a great rest of the show, and maybe we'll come see you over there here in a little bit.
Please do.
Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will catch you next week.